The Redskins. Many Native Americans want the Washington NFL team to change their name because they think that it's demeaning. They think that the term Redskins is racist and hateful. Also, the symbols used by the Washington Redskins promote stereotypes of Native Americans. You wouldn't refer to a Native American as a Redskin unless you're racist. Therefore, it should not be a name that the NFL uses. So how does this team defend their name? Their biggest claim is that it's a tradition that's gone on for a long time, so they shouldn't have to change it. They first started using the name in 1933, when the segregation of African Americans under the Jim Crow law was in full effect. While it is fun to have sports traditions, toying with racism is not, so the team should change their name. The Blackhawks. The Chicago Blackhawks logo consists of a Native American wearing a feathered headdress. Many Native Americans think that their logo is racist, just like the Redskins logo, but it's a little bit different. Unlike the Redskins, the Blackhawks are named after a real person, Black Hawk. So even though the name may be okay, the logo isn't a true representation of Black Hawk. The Braves. The logo from the Atlanta Braves past, known as the Screaming Savage, Screaming Indian, or Chief Nakahoma, is back. This logo hasn't been seen on Braves gear since 1989 when it was retired. Many Native Americans were happy when the Screaming Savage faced retirement because it was a very offensive caricature. So when the Braves brought him back, many Native Americans had some strong feelings about him. Some long-term Braves fans also had some strong feelings. One journalist said that he missed the Screaming Savage, and many others have similar opinions. But whether or not you're a Braves fan, it's hard not to admit that the Screaming Savage is a stereotypical characterization of an entire race of people. The Indians. And last but not least, the Indians. Everybody's been talking about the Indians lately, because they were in the World Series and all. But what people haven't been talking too much about lately is the racism associated with the Indians' logo, Chief Wahoo. Chief Wahoo is a bright red caricature with a giant nose and feathers in his hair, and supposedly the Indians are named after the Penobscot Indian who played for Cleveland in the 19th century, Louis Sockalexis. But that doesn't really pertain to the issue with Chief Wahoo because he doesn't look anything like Sockalexis. So it's okay to root for the Indians, but Chief Wahoo is still incredibly racist. Questions. Many questions are still being asked about this matter, one of which being, will these teams ever decide to change their names and/or logos? This is important because many people want them to, but many people don't, so we have to see which side they'll take. Another question still being asked is why did these teams choose racist names and/or logos in the first place? This is important because if we don't know the real stories behind them, we might judge them differently than if we did know the real stories behind them. Conclusion. In conclusion, there are many different opinions associated with sports teams' names, logos, and mascots being racist, but for every claim, there's always a counterclaim, so never state your opinion without being ready for someone else to state theirs. Bloopers! They think that the term Redskins is racist. Many Native Americans, wait, what? Because they think that it's no. So even though the name may be okay, the logo isn't a true representation of Black. Chief Wahoo is a bright red But that doesn't really pertain to the issue with Chief Wahoo because he doesn't look. Sources.